Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Flames Unfiltered. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Lewis, joined of course by our other host, Brad Burud. Brad, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing with this hockey team that we love so much?
I thought about, I've been happy all week with the team for the most part, scratch Monday. I thought, we keep
talking pin that on me, by the way. That was my fault. I shouldn't have gone to that game.
Well, and I was going to give you a hard time about that because you told me, well, I'm undefeated when I go. And all I could think of Monday night was, Kyle is not undefeated anymore. But and a crazy week for the Flames. It started off emotionally as about as low as you could get. Probably, would you say that?
Yep.
It reminded me.
Yeah, I think so.
You know what the other low one was for me? Remember that Utah game? I don't know what month it was.
That was a Thursday night game, wasn't it?
It was. And
yeah, I remember that one.
I remember I had a coaches meeting and I came home right at puck drop, and it was one of those nights I was kind of looking forward to it, and it was just disheartening, and that's really how last Monday felt, because Monday was bad. Monday was the worst I've seen the team play ever.
Yeah.
It was bad. And you knew it was bad when I was watching Wolf early in the game and I'm like, boy, he's so not on. And I haven't said that hardly ever with him. And I could just tell he kicked a rebound out in the beginning, and I'm just like, oh boy, that's a bad rebound. But I'm definitely not pinning it on him. That's for damn sure, because there was a lot of problems. It looked like a lack of effort game. You were in the seats. Tell me what you saw. You were there.
Well, they were lucky to, come out of that. I think they were tied at 1 after the first period.
They were. And then they had that goal disallowed.
Yeah. Yeah, it was brutal. They were just, it wasn't on Wolf at all. It was to the whole, all three zones were a fire drill for the Flames. It was just ugly. The highlight of the evening was meeting Lanny McDonald and Colin Patterson and chatting with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and met a ton of other Flames fans, which was always cool to do on the road.
And some listeners of the show even, right?
Yeah, actually that was pretty cool too. Yeah, I met a couple of guys at the plumbing company in Calgary, so we get chatting for a little bit, which is pretty cool. But the game itself was an absolute just mess, an absolute mess.
I have a question. I need to get your opinion on something.
Canyon Plumbing, by the way, is the name of the company.
Canyon Plumbing. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead. What's the question?
A minute 30. I made a joke, guys. I don't know. It was not quite a minute 37. But when a guy goes offsides, right? Mm-hmm. And then play continues for a minute or whatever, and then a goal is scored, and then it's reviewed that a minute prior to the goal, the guy was offsides. I know I'm exaggerating on a minute, I know. But I think that a team should have 20 seconds to get the puck out, and if you don't get it out in 20 seconds, I'm sorry, the guy's got to be offsides within 20 seconds of the goal.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I agree with that.
There's got to be a time on it. There's got to be a time, and I don't know what the right time is. 20 seconds seems to be legit, because I think what the problem is, we're trying to eliminate offsides that are bang bang. The play was offsides and a goal scored. I think you just say you got 20 seconds to get it outside of the zone. If you can't do that, then it's on you, right? Fair?
Well, yeah. Regardless of how a person views that, because you can play with that rule to some extent or another. I think the overarching point is that there's just too many controls in the game. There's so many things that aren't happening naturally anymore. Which is funny because when they get rid of the 2-line pass, they were kind of opening it up more, right? And it was a lot more fun. But now it's it's kind of become there's just too many controls on it. I find a lot of these times it's just let them play or just let it go, or I don't know.
I don't know what the answer is. I know we want. As a fan, and I guess as hockey players and management, we want perfection, and we're never going to have perfection. But I also think it's really tough after the play is held in the zone for that long, and then a goal is scored, and it's I swear to God, it's going to happen on Ovechkin's record. Something's going to happen.
Well, I'm sure I sound biased, but I was there and I saw the Videotron review and I saw it live, and then I watched it when I got home from Toronto the following day. It's that offside, and again, I know I'm biased. That offside was inconclusive to me.
Me too. I noticed it too. I just kept telling myself, there's got to be a camera angle I'm not seeing. that they're not showing.
Well, and that's
There's
what I
gotta
thought.
be.
But if there's a camera angle, they're not showing the fans, and it shouldn't be offside, right? Like full disclosure. But anyway, it didn't really matter in the end because the Flames got dummied regardless. They couldn't do anything to stop Toronto's attack. Obviously, Wolf got the mercy pull in the third, and it was just. I think I was halfway to the building when the Flames scored their second goal. Like it was brutal. It was the worst hockey game I ever attended.
It sucks too. And I was sitting there that night watching the game, and I said to my wife, I'm like, oh geez, Kyle went up to this game, and it's not fair when you get to go to limited games, and then when you go, it's a tire fire like that. It's just disheartening.
Yeah.
Okay. We have the negative out of our system.
No. I mean,
no. Oh, okay.
No, we'll get to the other part later. But I mean, generally, yes. This isn't going to be a super negative show because we still have lots to be happy about with that road trip, but just an atrocious start. But anyway, let's move on to some positive.
Tuesday, the next day, you'd think that would even be worse, and it looked worse because a minute 13, Artemi Panarin pops one in, and I thought, oh, this is the end of the season. Did you not say that in your head too? I thought this is the end of the season for sure. For sure.
I don't know why, but when I saw that, I was sitting in my basement watching it, and I didn't really react. I just kind of like, I'm pretty sure I sighed quite heavily.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's too early to overreact to this. Like I try, as much as I don't come across as an optimistic person, because guess what? I'm not. I am trying to be more positive in most aspects of my life, and you know, my hockey fandom is one of them. I was like, you know what, this might be okay. But I got a little bit of flack for that game too, and I'll tell you why if you hadn't seen it. I chastised the media a bit for claiming that Calgary, I forget who was it said it, I think a few people probably did, but claiming Calgary held the Rangers to just 12 shots, whatever. I'm like,
I saw this.
Yeah, and a few people jumped at me. It's like, oh, like we're also, you know, Flames had so negative, blah, blah. No, it's not that. I'm not saying the Flames played bad. I'm just saying they're giving the Flames way too much credit for the Rangers who played poorly. And anybody in the Rangers dressing room, I hope, would tell you the same thing. They did not have a good game. Most often, if a team only has 12 shots, the National Hockey League, it's not because the opposition held them to just 12 shots. They played a shit game.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. Because if somebody else is holding you 12 shots, you're in the wrong friggin' league.
The Rangers got held to limited. It was a little bit more than that last night against Vancouver and win. And
which is
I'm
crazy.
starting to wonder that that the Rangers are just not a real good hockey team.
Well,
that's a fair.
I mean, they obviously have some high end pieces. Yeah, well, they get Fox, Panarin, JT Miller. They got some high end pieces, and obviously, what's supposed to be a world class goaltender, Shesterkin. But it's like, I don't know how you compete in that league with so few shots. It doesn't. You should be able to muster at least 20 on a bad night, right? I don't know. To me, it's baffling. It's a bit baffling. Anyway,
the savior of the day, though, Matthew Coronado and Nazem Kadri both score. Both those have quite honestly been saviors, but Matthew Coronado, what can you say, man? This guy is on fire. This road trip, 4 goals, being 4 giant goals on this road trip, 2 against the Islanders, and this guy's on fire. And it's fun. It's fun to watch him.
Bud, you saw the stat, of the first Flame since who to score in all 3 New York area games since
I did not see the stat.
It was 99 2000.
Would be Fleury?
No, it's Jerome McGinley. Fleury was gone by that point. It was Jerome McGinley was the last player to score against all 3 New York area teams, which is pretty remarkable. And it's also the first time the Flames ever swept the 3 New York area teams. So
really.
First time ever. Well, you think about it, it's a bit of a gauntlet. I mean, in any given season, one of the Islanders, Rangers, or Devils is probably going to have a pretty good team, right?
And one of them is going to be a back-to-back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
and it's usually
with that amount of travel, that's exactly how it's going to go down. So,
yeah.
I guess we can get into each game a little bit. So obviously, we've covered the Rangers. We talked as much as I care to talk about the Leafs. The Devils game.
The Devil, okay.
Well, I was going to say the Devils game to me, that comeback was. Is that the game that the lines changed, or was it the game prior? It was after Toronto. I think the lines had changed. Correct?
No, yes, the lines changed after Toronto, and offensively, I'm fine with the changes in the lines, but defensively, what a head scratcher! They think that Bean and Maramonov is going to be the answer here, the ticket.
I haven't. Okay, there's what their saving grace right now has been Andersson. I think has been quite a lot better, And Kevin Ball is just, I can't say enough good things about Kevin Ball. Now, Miramonov.
Well, they're scoring goals too. That's the answer.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, when you watch Ball play, he's just making so many smart little plays, breaking up plays. Every shift he's in this, every single shift, he seems to break up a scoring opportunity. So
he had a rodeo though against, was it the New Jersey game?
Yes.
Him and Andersson got turned around one time. When Paul Cotter scored, that's what it was. When Paul Cotter scored, Ball got walked and Andersson stood there and watched. And I was like, whoa, that was a bad play. But all in all, that was a hell of an effort to come back though. Man.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting at. It's like, that's why that game was so impressive to me. I mean, you can't have defensive outings like that every game. Obviously, you'd go 0-82 unless your goaltender is Dustin Wolf. But their scoring actually bailed them out.
Yeah.
And I think between that game and the next game against the Islanders, it kind of proved the point that you and I have been preaching for a while, that there's a bit of a coaching problem with this team.
I did not want to think that this season, but I've found some glaring things that have created worry for me for the future.
Well, I mean, if you learned his lesson, then great, because right now we have two studs. Well, more than two, but the two veteran studs in Cgy and Huberdeau that are carrying this team, right?
Do you want me to break your heart though?
Go ahead.
I know he has not learned his lesson. Sharangovich was out there in the final minute of the game last night in a 1-goal game. And Sharangovich is out there, and I can't remember who, but someone got on the defensive side of him and damn near scored with less than a minute left. And I am done. I am done with Sharangovich out there in those situations. It is a horrible, horrible, horrible coaching. That's all there's. It's
there goes the positivity for this episode.
No, it's bad. It's bad. That doesn't.
Hey, listen, I couldn't agree with you more, and I'll take it a step further. I'm done seeing this guy in the lineup for the foreseeable future. I would much rather just about any other Wrangler, including, typical Wrangler, Dryden Hunt, have that place, because I'm done with it.
I mean, okay, I understand that maybe management and maybe ownership have been saying, no, this guy needs to stay in the lineup and work through his issues. That's fine. I understand that. But you surely do not have to truck his ass out there with under a minute to go and have, I believe it was Eric Halla, just freaking move him over like nothing was, like he was standing still, and move him right out of the way and get a point blank shot on net with under a minute to go. It's wrong. I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know.
I don't really know either, because that's a difficult position to put the media into, trying to address that with the coaching staff, because you want to ask Huska. It's like, Sharangovich has not had good results at all in any end of the ice for the most of the season,
especially defensively.
Yeah, what is the reasoning behind putting him on the ice? No
one will ask that question, because the media powder puffs around everything.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just I don't know. Well, let's look at what happened in New Jersey today. Kovacevic, did you hear about that?
You know what? I'm almost positive. What, refresh my memory.
All right, this just sounds, if Brad Bird was a coach, this is what you would say. That's literally what I thought when I heard it. So Kovacevic said post game that the Devils need to play basically with some urgency, like it's playoff time. And Sheldon Keefe just shot back to the reporter. He's like, Kovacevic needs to play better. That would help.
Yes. I'm tired of all the fluff all the time in the sport. These guys are professional athletes, and I'm not trying to be an asshole, and I don't like throwing knives and daggers at people, but the truth is the truth, you guys. It's the truth. If I'm seeing this, and I never even come even close to coaching a pro hockey game in my life, if I'm seeing a breakdown that is consistently happening and it's consistently being thrown out there, I just don't know what to say anymore.
Well, I mean, I talked to one of the Flame scouts at a game one time, and he was echoing everything that I had said about the team at the time. The team obviously saw it differently, but these things are obvious to most people paying attention to the sport. But I don't know, again, if it's coaches trying to get players out of a funk or thinking
I'm all about getting him out of the funk. I don't even know if I would sit him, because I think you have to play him out of this funk. But I sure as hell I'm not going to have him in the defensive zone with 1 minute to go.
No, terrible, terrible decision.
Oh, okay. I got to calm down. Well, this isn't going to calm me down. Here's the next topic I want to talk about. Timo Meier's hit on Joel Hanley. What were your thoughts? Because I know you're a big proponent on the league protecting its players in these volatile situations. I didn't like the hit one bit.
I struggled a little bit with it just because watching it in real time and slow motion, like it does affect your perception of it, in one way or another. And I didn't like it either, to be honest. But how do I say that? I don't want to say Hanley put himself in a vulnerable position, but Meyer should have known when he was 7-8 feet away from him and could have let up that he was in a vulnerable position. And I think it at least warranted a call from Department of Player Safety.
He could have waited 2 seconds and let Hanley get 2 feet away from the board. I have zero problem with the hit.
Yeah,
because Hanley didn't turn. He put himself in a bad situation. He should have pulled himself closer to the boards, but he didn't like turn like a lot of players are doing now and show his numbers and get, take the penalty. But I just think if Meyer could have waited 2 seconds to let Hanley move up on the play, he still achieves getting him cleared out of the play. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't the worst hit of the year. Let's put it
no, and I don't think Meyer's a predatory player whatsoever, but it was a bit of a predatory hit, and it was like, but again, having watched it for so long, played it for so long, like it's a fast game, so you got to factor that in too. But he definitely could have let up. I'll leave it at that. Definitely.
So Kyle's saying, Brad, relax, you're overreacting.
No, if I needed to say that, I'd say it exactly like that.
Oh, okay.
No, I agree. I agree with your assessment of it, but I mean, it's one of those things that happened, and thankfully, because Hanley has been, despite the fact we've said he's been playing over his head all year, and I think both of our opinions, he has been very valuable to this team, and thankfully he didn't get hurt because we've already had Weegar miss a game. Obviously, we're missing Backlund. We missed Ball for a period of time. So, and then given how tight this race is, we really can't afford any more injuries right now. We really can't.
Well, what else did I say? Oh, how about the hit on Pospisil from Thomas Tatar?
Oh, I didn't like that at all. Now, a headbutt?
I don't know. Was it a headbutt? I couldn't quite tell.
It was a headbutt, but I have to believe that it was accidental.
Like, I don't think that was like a I'm going to hit you with my head. By the way, I'm looking really bald tonight, don't I?
You're looking what?
I look like I'm getting bald. Like I'm balding more. Like, I don't know if it's the light tonight, but I'm sitting here watching the show and I'm like, I feel like I need to comb my hair a little differently. I'm recessing quicker than I thought.
Is it this playoff race that's doing it to you? Because that would make sense.
Kyle, if I could go through the list of things that are doing it to me. 45 minutes is surely not long enough.
Yeah, this would be our longest episode ever. I lost my train of thought because I was like, did he really say that? That was funny. A way to draw attention to it because our viewers likely would have noticed had you not said that. Yeah. Now, so I don't think that play was intentional at all, but I felt like Pospisil kind of leaned forward. And that I would agree. I was terrified though.
I know. Terrified. Ferlin 2.0. It scares the shit out of me every time he gets hit.
Well, and the thing is that the brain is very resilient. So let's get into a little bit of medical science here for a moment, if you'll indulge me.
That'd be good.
Right. So the brain will recover to some extent or another from concussions over time if certain things are looked after. Proper oxygen and looking after it. Obviously, no more concussions. But the thing is, it takes considerable time for that to be the case. You take a guy like Paul Kariya, who's been in therapy for his concussions for years, and he had innumerable serious concussions. In Pospisil's case, I like to think, and I don't know this because I'm not a doctor, I like to think that he is much more resilient now than he had been a few years ago, right? As he's matured and as he's gone concussion free. But when something like that happens, I think back to like even David Steckel hitting Sidney Crosby like 10, 12 years ago, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Like those types of plays are really, really scary. And if you have a concussion history, it doesn't take much to send you right back to the place you were sitting in a dark room, being told not to go to sleep, like whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago for him, especially how he plays the game. So thankfully he was okay. When he came back on the bench, like I visibly and audibly exhaled. For his well-being, never mind an injury to a hockey player, but for his well-being, it's like, oh, thank God he's all right.
Have you had a concussion before?
I've had 2 that I know of.
Diagnosed ones?
One was diagnosed playing hockey. The other one was sustained while crowd surfing at the Rolling Stones, and I'm quite sure I had a concussion. And the people with me can tell you the same thing.
I've had 2. I've never been diagnosed. I got them back in the day where your parents just said, "Get up, you're fine."
Yeah.
I got one on a water slide. That was bad. And I got another one falling off a table. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. See, if my father had been there, he likely would have said, like at the hockey game, he would have said, get up, you're fine.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, that was 20 years ago. When even 20 years ago, people did not take concussions very seriously at all. This is a very, very recent thing that people actually care about. So,
if you saw the hockey helmets that I wore growing up, it's amazing I'm still talking.
Well, we're glad you were, because that's why we have a show. You are the founder and creator.
Oh, sometimes when we have technical difficulties, I wish I wasn't the founder and the creator. Yeah.
That sounded far more religious than I intended. But anyway,
yeah, we're 235 episodes into this, so I just realized that tonight. That's a lot of talking.
I can't remember when I joined. I mean, I know when
I think you're at like 170. I should look this up. I think you're like 170. I think
probably the easiest thing to do is check our DMs on X. I think that might be the easiest. Anyway, whatever the case, this show's been going on for a while.
Yeah. Islanders game, they win this in overtime. It's a huge 2 points, so critical, like so critical. And we did it without Weegar, and they're saying
and Farabee.
Yes, Farabee was an illness, so I'm not super worried there. Although I love what Farabee's brought to the table lately. He's been really, really good. Vladar starts, Weegar takes warm-ups and then doesn't play lower body. I'm not super worried about that based off what everybody's said. I hope it's not a decoy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, I think it might be just a little bit of a tweak, right?
It's an important game to sit out, though.
Yeah, but there must have been some concern about exacerbating it. There had to have been.
Yeah.
Now, that said, I felt that Miramonov, because I mentioned him briefly earlier in response to, didn't really pursue that thought. I thought he actually had a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm
not trying to sound disappointed but it's pretty off that Weegar has to be out for Pahal to be in. That's mind blowing to me.
Well, I think like Miramonov had scored against Jersey, and I think
a good goal, a really, really good goal,
very, very similar to his previous goal,
like a mirror image.
Yeah, that's a hard shot to make coming down on your correct side like that.
I don't mean to sound like disappointed in him, but I am, because I don't know why after last season I had so much higher expectations that he has not met yet. Fair.
Well, that's a very fair assessment. That's a very, very fair assessment, because we've all he was the piece, so to speak, other than the pick, of course, in the Hannafin trade. And he came over with a lot of fanfare and optimism, and he himself had said, what he was capable of and how good he could be, he felt, which, that's his prerogative to say those things. But I was at least impressed to see he could come in and spot duty and play reasonably well. He's not going to be Mackenzie Weegar, but I think he did a lot. I would say, can I speak for you here and say in both of our eyes to say, hey, he can still at least play?
I was impressed with him on this road trip. I really was. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing him get a little bit more runway with Pahal in the lineup and maybe Bean coming out. But I mean, I didn't think Bean was like glaringly bad at all either, really, to be honest.
Well, okay, yeah, and I want to touch on that, because Bean made a terrible decision defensively on the second goal, I believe, against the Islanders. But in his defense, yeah, he went over to, was he playing with Pahal or Miramonov? Miramonov, I believe.
He was with Miramonov, yes.
Yeah, so Miramonov had his side covered, and Bean went over to the same side, thus leaving the left side of the ice exposed, right?
Yes.
But the fourth line was more responsible for the breakdown, as they often have been. I want to talk to you about that, because for the first time all season, other than, a game here or there, and literally no more than that, the Flames have been able to score their way out of trouble, which I didn't think we would say that this year. But with the lineup changes Huska made, clearly it's working. And also,
is it the lineup change? Oh, God, I'm not trying to steal his thunder on something good, since I've been really tough on Huska lately. But Is it the lineup change or is it just a product of things? Like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is the lineup changes. I don't know. Maybe it is. I just
Well,
don't know how Sharangovich, Hunt, and Coleman's the lineup change. It's going to spark offense. But although Frost, Huberdeau, and Coronado was really good.
oh man, were you not thinking like myself and probably so many others thinking that if Frost starts to finish half these plays, or whether it's a pass or a shot, he's going to be a 70, 80 point player if he starts doing that with some regularity. Much like we said about Zary, if he starts finishing those opportunities, holy hell!
I know. I hate to say this because, well, I don't know why I hate this because I liked it back then. I like the Kadri Zary Pospisil line. I do. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it has a bit of everything. Yeah. Well, I think Kadri gives Pospisil and Zary the type of boost they need. Zary needs a skilled guy to play with, and Pospisil adds that element of physicality and puck retrieval for those two. So, and Zary does as well, actually. I think all three guys complement each other. But inevitably, what I think was bound to happen, at least I hope, was that the Flames had eventually just figured out what their previous line combos, because you just can't be that offensively anemic all the time. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So eventually it's going to average out, but it kind of became obvious after Toronto they had to change something, and thus far it's worked. And the other thing that they changed, I was very happy to see this, and it's the reason we won, is that we didn't beat the same players into the ground in overtime.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Codric came on the ice fresh, lots of space in that pass from Andersson, and just ripped it home.
Speaking of Andersson, I've been a little bit more impressed with his play lately, but it brings us to our X factor because it's something that we've touched on in the previous weeks, and it comes from ADJ, and he says the fact that this team is even considering extending number 4 is mismanagement. And I don't want to dive deep into what we should do with re-signing him or not re-signing him, but I do think it is something that should really be looked into by the organization. And
absolutely,
I liked this post just because there was a time, there was a play, and our buddy Robert Munich put a tweet out about it where Dustin, Thomas Tatar just left Andersson in the corner, and Andersson looked like he fell down even and was struggling. And I'm like, oh boy. And it turned into a big scoring chance for the Devils. And then I see this and I'm like, I told you, and we talked about it earlier, I'm probably fine if they re-sign him, but they better set a price tag and they better stick to their guns on it, because an overspend on him could be deadly if for the future. It just could be.
Oh, dude, 100%. So I'm going to touch on two things here. I'm going to bring something up just to kind of.
And by the way, thank you, ADJ, for the X Factor this week.
Yes, and actually, it's very to the point. And let me just find this because I was just looking at it. So Zane Prek finishes OHL draft +1 season with 107 points.
Yes.
33 goals. Now, I have said repeatedly, and some people argue with me, as they're, well within their rights to do, because I could be dead wrong about this, obviously. It takes a while for offensive defensemen to learn the pro game, defensively especially. Zane Prek is an all-world talent, but whether he's ready for the NHL or not, you get Jeremy Poirier, who we talked about extensively on our last show. You've got Solovoyov, Kuznetsov. We have all kinds of Hunter Bastevich, of course. We have all kinds of defensive prospects. So there's that factor that you need to consider when you go into re-signing a guy like Rasmus Andersson. And you also have to look at the guys around the league that play defense that are getting a boatload of money. Seth Jones comes to mind. Darnell Nurse comes to mind. And that's not to say that they're, pure.
Yeah. I think we're going down a road that, I agree.
I think those guys, cost-wise, the two I just mentioned, are in a tier above Andersson, at least in terms of how they're perceived around the league. So if they're making, 8, 9, 10, Andersson's probably around 7, 8, let's say. But that's a lot of money for a guy who has not contributed very much throughout the season at both ends of the ice. Now, more recently, he's taking offensive chances and succeeding.
But is he a 9-10 with the new cap?
No, he's not.
No, I'm just saying his agent is going to say that.
Oh, well, and absolutely. And that's the thing. It's the same thing in the business that you and I are in. We're both in construction materials, right? The market, especially during COVID, when I could charge, and my margins didn't change, but I was charging $65 for a sheet of 7/16 OSB. It's not worth anywhere near that. No. Darnell Nurse is not worth what he's making either, but that's the money he's making, and good for him, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So the market conditions around these players, that's what's going to dictate what they get paid. The reality is that the Flames have to do the very difficult thing of deciding, will he accept this number, which we feel is reasonable and fair, or do we have to cut bait from the player or entertain trade opportunities because this just doesn't make sense for us? And because of all the prospects we have in the cupboards, unless there's a hometown discount involved, I can't imagine a scenario wherein it makes sense to re-sign the player.
Agree.
All right. I don't think I could have worded that any better, so I'm glad I have your support on this.
Agree. Like I said, I'm not against signing Andersson. I just think you have to be really
I love Andersson. I love his character. I love what he can bring to the game. I just haven't seen it enough, and I don't know the contract ask is going to be reasonable.
But I feel like Weegar has better attributes, boy, is that right? Defensively. And I also think that he can be a real strong leader for this team too.
Did you hear what he said last week?
I did.
I need more from everyone, including myself. I love how frank and honest that statement was. I loved it.
Yep.
Not that I need every leader to go out there and speak his mind.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I know what you mean though. But it was very. It held weight, right?
That's a golf clap moment.
It held weight though because he doesn't say things like that, and it held weight because when a true leader talks like that though, people do respond, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, I know them again, you mentioned the increased cap, which is a good point. And it's been a few years since Weegar signed his extension, but you can't tell me Andersson is worth the same more money than Mackenzie Weegar. He's just not.
Yeah.
So
let's talk standings and then this playoff race because it's down to 4-team race. As we sit here tonight, St. Louis holds the number 2 wildcard spot, 81 points. Calgary is at 77, Vancouver 76, and Utah 75. The big difference is that games remaining are different. Right now, St. Louis has 11 games remaining. Calgary has 14 still?
Yep. 13, I believe.
13, yes, after last night. Actually, no. Yes, we have 13 and they have 10. St. Louis has 10 left. Vancouver has 12 left and Utah has 12 left.
So let me bring this up as well. I am not. Now, Pettersson missed practice. I should say Elias Pettersson missed practice. Sorry, the forward star player Elias Pettersson.
I'm not joking though. Is that maybe a benefit for them right now? And it sounds awful to say that, but what I'm saying is sometimes a guy that's struggling misses a lineup. Everybody thinks, "Oh, I got to step up," and sometimes you get better performances down the line.
I think that's what happened against the Islanders with Weegar being out and Farabee too.
I don't disagree. I feel like that happens once in a while. And when we're sitting here and I'm looking, and I mean, Vancouver to me is the odd man out on this. I have the least faith in them. I have the most faith in St. Louis, and because St. Louis's schedule isn't really hard either.
Well, I'm kind of hoping that the wheels fall off the bus that is the Minnesota Wild, which is unlikely. I mean, they're at 85 points and had a fantastic season thus far, but I mean,
it could.
Well, somebody's got to stumble here, and it's not going to be the Blues. Ever since Binnington came back from 4 Nations, he's been lights out.
They've won 6 in a row. St. Louis is on.
And they're dummying really crappy teams. Like
and they get Montreal, Nashville next.
Well, Montreal, and I think could pump the brakes on them a bit. Now that game is in St. Louis, but the Habs came back from down 4-1 against the Avalanche and nearly won that game. It went to a shootout. Wow. The Habs are hot too, and interconference games are a coin toss. You saw that. Well, the Predators dummied the Leafs on Saturday night, right? So, case in point. Now, Utah, I'm not convinced is really going to be able to climb back into this. They're only 2 points back at Calgary, but I don't see that I don't think they have the horses to get this done. Vancouver, I agree with you. St. Louis, I think it's going to cool off. We've talked about this before, and I tweeted this the other day. The Calgary drop on those 2 games in St. Louis absolutely killed them. And it's the number one reason I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, regardless of how they play the rest of the year. They gifted the Blues 4 points and took none from them.
We said that last episode, but more importantly, both me and you talked to each other that night. We text each other. I remember it. And it was those are 2 disheartening losses. We highlighted the Toronto, Utah earlier in the episode. Those St. Louis ones, I agree with you. I agree that you are right. Those are the 4 points that are going to haunt us down the stretch here. Now, I'm not saying I don't think Calgary could do it. Yeah. It's just going to be a hell of a lot of it's going to be an uphill battle, and this team's going to have to continue this win streak, right? We're going to have to rattle off another 4-game win streak on top of this. So it's going to be a little bit more to it, and I hope that I hope that we're able to do it, and I hope we're able to keep things rolling, because it is a lot of fun. We both have said from day one this year that the goal is to make the playoffs and to have fun, and have these young players experience that and learn from that. But I thought that was out of reach many, many times this year. I still worry that it is out of reach, but this win streak has given me a little bit more hope.
Well, as we kept talking about, we haven't had a meaningful win streak since the start of the season, and we finally have one. Now, the fact that the Flames have 3 games in hand is huge. That's 6 points, and they're 4 points back. So if the Blues stumble at all, which again I don't think that they will, like the Flames, they're right there. And I said this on X as well. Wolf is, and even Weegar of late, they're too good for this team to bottom out. So you may as well just root for the playoffs. I think I said that in the last week's show too.
You did, and I couldn't agree more.
Like, just take the, and again, there's always crazy upsets. We have elite goaltending, we have proven playoff performance, we have all the ingredients to pull off an upset, potentially, as unlikely as it may be. Now, back to this, like, I hate to say this, and I hate to say this to our listeners, I hate to say it to myself, I don't see the Flames making it because the Blues are just way too hot. But we are, what are we today? 24th? 24th. No, sorry, 23rd. Tomorrow's 24th. It's late here. Whatever the case, we're still in it this late in the season. We're going to be playing meaningful hockey in the beginning of April, and nobody saw that coming.
No.
So, we've been getting sucked into this and getting frustrated, getting mad, and I know there's that whole huge section of the fan base that's going to be upset that we don't get a top 10 pick, or we have to give this pick up or get that pick from Jersey, Montreal, blah, blah, blah. Listen, we got to see Dustin Wolf emerge. We got to see Matthew Carnotto emerge as one of the best snipers in the sport right now at 20 goals. If he hadn't been demoted to start the year, if he hadn't found his game when he did, I think he scores 30 this year. Anyway, there's lots of things to be happy about.
Yeah.
And again, in the spirit of optimism, no matter what happens the rest of the season, we need to focus on those positives going into the next season, because if they do miss the playoffs, I do see them unloading a few veteran pieces this summer and, getting a decent return. And, we're still on the right track.
We're ahead with just what we've seen with Dustin Wolf this year makes us ahead. It makes us ahead.
Yep. Big time, big time, big time.
And I don't think any of us at the beginning of the year thought we had had a center as potent as Morgan Frost either. And I know some people will say, oh, what are you talking about? Potent. Hey, this guy's a player, and we've seen it lately, and it's going to start coming, and it's going to start hitting the back of the net even more. I fully think.
Yeah, and he was 59%, I believe, in the face-off circle against the Islanders,
which is something that nobody else can do on this team.
Yeah. Yep. No, he's fantastic. Now, to touch again on a little bit of a negative thing, but we try to cover it all in this show. I do think something still has to be done about the fourth line, because you're still getting their head caved in every time they're on the ice.
The other night against that.
Well, and it's a good thing, but I still struggle, and I know this is a very common coaching practice I really struggle with, rolling them out, after a goal against and things like that. Like, they don't. The idea in hockey that your checking line is going to change momentum is a bit ridiculous to me. You want the Kadri line or somebody like that on the ice.
You need a bump, right? You need a bump.
Yeah.
You need to
we're not talking. Be clear, we're not talking about cocaine. I mean, if that's your thing, cool. But
God, I don't know.
You know what? Like, and it's easy to armchair coach, and I've been very critical, especially when I get mad and I'll tweet too quickly, and I don't think before I do.
Oh, we all do that.
And maybe that's why I have some followers. Maybe that's why I've lost some. But whatever. Generally, I think Huska has this team with the right mindset. That I firmly believe. I think he's managed his goaltenders very well, despite some early season criticisms when we kind of felt like Wolf was already there. And Vladar has earned the starts he's got. He's been fantastic. So the personnel management has been much better the last few games. I'm a little worried. I don't know how you feel about this, but I want your opinion. Going home, the Tuesday night game, big road trip. it's a bit of a trap game. You're coming back home. You're feeling good after that road trip, but both, the latter half of the road trip. I'm concerned about seeing a flat effort in that game.
We got a Seattle Kraken team that has absolutely nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a team we can't afford to lose to, obviously.
No.
The other thing we should talk about, we touched on Matthew Coronado and his incredible shot and his greatly improved foot speed as well. We should mention that. Talk to me about Jonathan Huberdeau.
He's been amazing. I was late in bed the other night listening to the post-game show, and I was just thinking to myself, next time we have a guy that's struggling, i.e. Sharangovich maybe, I probably better keep my mouth shut, because now I wasn't the guy that was like, oh, buy out Huberdeau or, send him to the moon. I was done. I was frustrated. I had enough of him. But you know what? Like, could you be any more happy for a guy? Like, he's been super fun to watch, and he's done a hell of a good job.
Well, as many, many people have said, we've echoed ourselves, he's never going to live up to that contract. It's not reasonable to expect him to, but he's been elite, especially the last 2 weeks. His goals, his assists, his overall play, his cadence on the ice, his positioning. He's been. I never thought we'd see this good of a version of Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary. I really did not given up on him, and shame on me for doing so. But he's been absolutely.
Shame on a lot of us, because it's not just you. I mean, it lose a lot of the fan base, and I couldn't be more happy for him.
Yep, I want to see him score 30. Low 60s in points. I'd be happy with that. Obviously, Kadri's right there with him, who's been again, fantastic for the Flames. I do think, and I did say, I don't see the Flames sneaking in, but I do think this goes right down to games 81, 82 of the season to determine their fate.
Yep, I agree. One quick thing I got to ask you. John McNeil, one of our listeners, sent me an email this week, and he was talking about if he could run the league, he would have 2 preseason games, 70 regular season games, no overtime, no shootout, he'd return to the old tie method, no all-star game, and he'd leave the playoffs the way they were. If you could do it, and here's what I would do if I was in charge of the league. I'd do 6 preseason games because I want to see how the young guys do. I'd have an 82 regular season. I would go to the 3-2-1 point system. I'd start in mid-September, and I'd be done the end of May. I want no all-star games. I never want one again in my life. And I like the current playoff system. Where are you, Kyle?
I agree with everything that you just said. I like John's idea too, because I can appreciate the appeal of that. But I like what you said, although I do admit, and Gary Bettman had some very good points about this today, but I actually like the 1 versus 8 format.
Do you?
Well, I like the fact. I mean, I didn't think it was entirely fair, because it's like, they're going to get dummied. The rare time you'd see an upset of the 8 seed over the 1 seed, it's like, man, it was wild. But I grew up on that, right? So that's
I grew up on the luster of getting out of the Smythe division. So, right? I mean, it's just what it is, right?
Yeah, I grew up in the Northwest, so.
Yep. We often look back at what was in our childhood, right? I mean, it's just the way it is. That's the way life is.
I still think the late 90s jerseys were the best jerseys across the league ever. And
I agree.
Yeah, but now people go on about like Blasty or Pooh Bear or a Mighty Wing in Anaheim, the Fish Sticks jersey in Long Island.
I didn't mind that one.
Oh, did I tell you, by the way, that the Hockey Heroes Heart and Stroke Foundation tournament I'm playing? Did I tell you what jerseys we got?
No, and I want to talk about that one as soon as you're done telling me.
We got the Neon Stars jerseys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you like them?
Well, none of my gear's going to match them, so I got to figure that out. But they are cool looking. The logo looks terrible because the logo doesn't match it, but it's pretty neat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So Kyle's doing this in support of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick. It is a fundraising / skills. Kyle's currently at 1905.
Yeah.
He needs to get to 2000. So Flames Unfiltered is going to throw in 100 tonight to get you over the 2000 mark. And now what's the next level? Tell us about that. And when is the date on this so that we can get a push here on the show to get Kyle as much money as we possibly can, not for Kyle, but for the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick. Plus, we get to see Kyle do a shootout if we can get him to the next level. And we're going to put it on video on the show. So I don't know how the hell we're doing that, but we're going to do it.
Oh, we can make that happen. So it's May 31st and June 1st. So the next tier is $3,000, and that's I think that's one wherein I would at least qualify to play in the said shootout. If I get to $5,000, which would be unbelievable, I would actually play in like the alumni game. But to me, it's much like the Flames playoff race. It's one step at a time. We're basically at $2,000 goal. Then we move to the idea of trying to raise 3,000. But again, we've talked about this already. It's a fantastic cause, and just to mention the players are going to be there. So Mark Giordano, former Flames captain, of course, Alexei Kovalev, Matthew Barnaby, Darren McCarty, another former Flame, Gary Lehman, Colin Patterson, Craig McTavish, Ryan Kessler. Flames fans love him.
You slash him from?
Sure, yeah, I do that.
All right,
I'm gonna tell him, Mr. Kessler, I'm about to slash you with something personal. Please don't kill me.
The balding guy that I do my podcast with wanted me to give you this.
Hey, Sabres Bunny on Twitter, one of the best Sabres fans you could possibly follow, has a major beef with Matthew Barnaby, so I've already made a promise to her as well.
Oh boy.
Oh man. Yeah.
All right. You ready to get out of here?
All right. Another big week. We're gonna have to do some shorts this week. We're gonna have to do some instant reaction to these games.
We are. What we have this week coming up is Seattle and Calgary on Tuesday. Thursday, Dallas comes down for that'll be a tough one. And then Saturday night, one of the fun nights of the year, the hockey night in Canada. Calgary heads to Edmonton to take on the Oilers, hopefully without Draisaitl and McDavid. We'll see what happens there. They're struggling, and boy, would it be fun to steal 2 points from the hated Oilers. But Flames fans, have a great week. We hope that you enjoy the show. Kyle and I have a hell of a good time putting it on, and let's raise some money for Kyle this week, and let's also watch the Flames rack up some points and stay in this playoff race.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. And again, hey, no matter what side of the fence you're on, I know everybody wants to know the next big prospect, top 10 pick. I get it, but enjoy this race, and don't be mad if we make the playoffs. For God's sakes, don't be mad.
No, that's what we do. We watch sports to win, right? I want to be a winner, not a loser.
Right?
All right,
exactly.
Have a good week. Everybody take care.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.